In the previous video of this module, we looked at segments. We looked at what they are and how we can build them, and how we can use them in our explorations to cluster users together based on common traits or behavior. Now, audiences are fundamentally very similar to segments. The only difference between them is that segments are only available in the Explore workspace, and more specifically in a single exploration. Audiences are used all over Google Analytics 4 and beyond. There's two ways we can create an audience. The first way is to promote an existing segment from an exploration. So if I go into this exploration that I've created earlier, it's a simple free-form exploration where I've represented the data in a data table, and I've already applied a segment, and this segment is looking at all users that have seen 10 or more page views in the last 7 days. Now, if I go into this segment and click Edit, there's an option at the top right of this segment screen to build an audience from this segment. By clicking that box, it opens up these two options. The first one is to look at the membership duration. So now every user that sees 10 or more pages in the last 7 days enters this audience. I now have a control over how long they retain membership into the audience. For example, I might not want to keep them there permanently. I might want to class them as a recently active user for, let's say, 14 days. And then if they don't see 10 or more page views in the last 7 days, then they can fall out of this audience. However, they can always re-enter this audience if they meet the criteria again. The last one is an audience trigger event. So this is a really interesting and useful feature in Google Analytics 4 where we can add an event into the user timeline when they enter this audience. Now that can be really useful for a number of reasons, more specifically around our events report and also marking the event as a conversion so that we can use that in things like our advertising workspace for attribution modeling. Once you're happy with your choices, you can click Save and Publish, and now this will be classed as an audience which we can use outside of this exploration. Where we can see our existing audiences and also create new audiences from scratch is in the admin workspace. So if I go to the admin workspace of GA4 and go to the audience page, you will see a list of all of the existing audiences and their audience size. Now from here, I can create new audiences, I can edit existing audiences, and even archive audiences that we don't need anymore. Now it's important to note that we can have up to 100 audiences in the free version of Google Analytics 4 and 400 in the GA360 version. All GA4 properties will start with two audiences. You have your all users audience and a purchaser audience. Even if you're not an e-commerce website or app, you will still have the purchaser audience, but you can always archive that if you don't want to use it. Now, if we wanted to create an audience from scratch from here, we can click the Create New Audience button, and this will take us into a screen very similar to when we created a segment. We can go through the motions, we can even use templates in exactly the same way, including our predictive templates as well. Now, I'm not going to go through any examples of building audiences here because it's exactly the same process as segments. So if you wanted to see some examples there, please see the previous video on when we created segments. Now that we've got our audiences created and they've been running for a couple of days and starting to acquire users in these audiences, we can start to use and activate these throughout all of our reports. So the first way we can do this is going into the reports workspace. We can add the audience name dimension in as a secondary dimension in any report. So we can instantly cut any of our reports by our audiences if we so wish. Another way we can use these audiences is in report filters or comparisons. So when I go through the motions of adding in a filter or a comparison, I can choose audience name as the dimension, and then from the list I can select a specific audience or audiences that I want to include in the comparison or filter. I can also use audiences in the Explore workspace. When I'm creating a new exploration, I can import the audience name dimension just like I can any other dimension in GA4. We can also use audiences outside of Google Analytics 4. For example, if we're building a dashboard in Looker Studio, we can use our audiences there. We can also use them in our connected ad platforms such as Google Ads, and we can use our audiences as remarketing lists. One of the most powerful ways of activating the Google Analytics 4 data is by connecting it to Google Ads. And so what we can do is we can share the audiences and the conversions into Google Ads for retargeting and for measuring the campaigns. Check out the link in the description to learn exactly how you can access that GA4 data from within Google Ads. There's lots of ways we can activate audiences outside of creating a segment in an exploration. So now I'm going to pass you over to Dara. Dara's got some insight into how we can use audiences and some of the real value that can be gained from using them effectively.
Audiences are the common language that connect reporting inside and outside of GA4, allow you to activate your marketing through the Google stack, and even run A/B testing and personalization. Think of audiences as the so what of all of the data that you're collecting within GA4, enabling you to take it beyond just reporting.
Awesome, thanks Dara. So as you heard, really important to be able to understand audiences because they're used by everyone inside and outside of Google Analytics 4. They can be a really powerful asset in our tool belt when it comes to understanding our customers and also marketing and acquiring new ones. That's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.